Hi guys, welcome to the very first session of Mutha Talks. So these discussions are going to be based around real stories in pregnancy, in birth and into parenthood. And they're going to be real, unfiltered, and we're going to be meeting lots of people along the way to share their story and hopefully help some of you out there by listening. So very, very pleased that my first guest is Hana from the Birth Tribe / a midwife / mummy. Got lots and lots of things going on. And Hana's going to be talking to us about solo parenting. And we're going to be discussing kind of the trials and tribulations of solo parenting, but also how you can still achieve all of your dreams and accomplish everything that you have planned out, still being a solo parent. So yeah, Hana, hi.
Hello.
So first of all, lovely, do you just want to tell us a little bit about your story from when you were pregnant?
Yes, so I fell pregnant when I was quite young. I was 21 when I fell pregnant for the first time with my daughter Tilly. Pretty straightforward pregnancy, not the best birth, but nothing too exciting. And yeah, I went home with my lovely baby. When she was about 4 months old, that's when it started to become a bit obvious that she wasn't really meeting her milestones. So she started going to see the paediatrician, the health visitor, and slowly went from mild global developmental delay all the way through to severe global developmental delay, became epileptic, and turned out that she had quite severe learning difficulties. So she was diagnosed with a metabolic disorder eventually at 5, with a really long name, which I won't try and get you to remember because it is really long. And she is now 7. So yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. It was never obvious when she was born. She was completely normal. The way that her condition develops is that you're born completely normal, and then if you don't get treatment, you get worse and worse and worse and worse, and that's what happened. But she has been on treatment now since she was 5, and she's now 7, and life is very, very different for her. She's doing really well. I don't know what else to tell you. Which tangent of my story shall I go down?
Oh no, I think that's amazing. But I think it's amazing that she's doing so well now. But I think one of the main things is when you're a new mum, you do panic about things like milestones. And actually, in my job, a lot of the time you try and kind of suppress those anxieties in the sense of reassurance. And how did you kind of know when it was that kind of, oh, they're not quite ticking a box, she's not quite ticking that box, to actually, I think there's something not quite right, I need to talk to someone?
It was really tricky. It was really tricky. And I think at the beginning I found it quite difficult as a first-time mum, quite a young first-time mum, trusting the inner voice that was telling me, this is not right, your baby's not right. And I went to the doctor and said something wrong with her, and he said, well, she's fine, you're just being a neurotic first-time mum. So I was like, okay. But with time, obviously, things became worse and worse and more obvious. But yeah, it took a couple of years really to get everyone on the same sort of page. I just knew, and I think my mum probably knew earlier than I did. She, much earlier than I did, was like, there's something not quite right here. And I think having her on my team to agree with me and, be the voice of reason, the slightly older voice of reason, was really helpful. Because when you are a new mum and you don't always trust your gut instinct, you always think, oh, well, what do I know about a baby? I've not had one before. But I think your instincts are always quite right.
Yeah, and also it's that the problem, because there's a difference between having a little bit of anxiety that they're not kind of rolling over quite yet or holding their head up yet, there's a difference between that deep-rooted instinct and then when that instinct's questioned by a medical professional, or kind of said, no, there's nothing to worry about. I see it quite a lot with just with reflux and colic in my baby classes. You know, parents really have to go back sometimes because it's kind of going, oh well, babies cry, oh well, babies take time to do this. And there's definitely that. I think as a society we're quite conditioned to suppress our instinct.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to become an advocate for your baby. You have to keep going back and back and back and being really adamant. I had to really scream and shout to get her to the various people she needed to see. She was, rejected from physio once or twice when she was younger, speech and language therapy. And I just had to keep going back. I had to keep finding phone numbers, ringing, just becoming a complete nuisance because I was adamant there was something wrong with her. And I was right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so when in your journey did you become a solo parent?
Well, I fell pregnant with my second child and found out the day before Tilly's first birthday. So, as you can imagine, I was getting ready for her birthday the next day and thought, I'm pregnant, aren't I? And went and did a test and was just like, oh God. It was so soon and things were starting to become so much more obvious with her. And then when I was, I think about 34 weeks pregnant, my husband decided, parenting wasn't for him and, he was off. So he pissed off into the sunset and didn't really come back. Well, he didn't come back. So I became a single parent of two, well, one and almost another one, when I was 24.
And I
think
think
it's a bit full on.
It really full on. And I think what's kind of most like what really just like kind of struck me a little bit is I remember that vulnerability when you're pregnant, especially with your hormones. And I think we kind of joke about hormones quite a lot. We're like, oh, they're hormonal, and it's not. It's something really physically and emotionally affects us. And even like the strongest and most independent people, I feel like during pregnancy you have that vulnerability, but then you add in the fact that you have a 1-year-old who you're concerned about, and just a completely different level.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, really difficult time. I had so many different emotions. I was furious with him and also quite jealous that he could just be like, nah, this is too much, and off he went. And it made me quite resentful that I was pregnant and felt so trapped inside my own body. So Arlo was born 5 weeks later. So that was also quite a... No, so he came with me. I was always adamant, I'm never going to be the type of woman that stops the father of their children from, being involved. So I said, look, you can come, and then make your decisions from there. He did come, but he unfortunately wasn't very interested. My dog, sorry.
I think that's really interesting because I feel like you're a lot more selfless than me, because I became a single parent at 36 weeks pregnant, and I was very adamant that I wanted my birth experience to be the most enjoyable and relaxing experience.
Sorry about the dog.
That's all right, don't worry. I have one probably barking downstairs. And I was very adamant, and I just kind of made that decision that I would rather birth with my mum. So I feel like I was really, really adamant that I didn't want to, but obviously as soon as he was born, he was the first person to know and all the rest. But I was quite, I think by the sounds of you, I feel quite selfish now, but I did have a really relaxing experience, and I had pregnancy anxiety, and he kind of triggered that for me. So
No, I think you have to be selfish in those situations. I had an elective cesarean second time round, so I didn't feel like I needed to create calm in the way that I would have done. Like if I'd had a vaginal birth, there was not a chance that man would have been in the room. I would have needed my mum and not him. But I mean, I think my motives for having my now ex-husband in the room with me when I had the cesarean aren't that selfless. I needed to prove a point to him and to myself, that I was the better person.
Yeah.
And I was right. So.
Oh, quite obviously.
Yeah, I would. I know. He's a delight.
But kind of fast forwarding, was he there for you kind of postnatally supporting you when you first had Arlo with Tilly as well?
No, so he left me on the postnatal ward before my legs had actually got the feeling back in them to take another woman on a date with my car and my bank card. And then I'd insisted, like, you are staying with me for the 2 weeks after I have this baby. You will help me with these children. They're your children. He'd just go missing. He would leave me alone overnight. I was struggling to get out of bed one morning, and luckily I had a lodger at the time and had to get them to come and help me out of bed. He just abandoned me, basically. And it took, I think I fainted a couple of times. It was bad. And my mum came round one morning. I think I'd gone back to bed. It was probably about 11 in the morning, and my Tilly was crawling around the floor. And my husband was fast asleep on the sofa, so she took her, and he didn't notice when he woke up that she was gone. So it was at that point that my mum, love my mum, she's great, was like, what are you doing? What point are you trying to prove? Just come and live with me for a week. So I did. The three of us moved in with her. She fed us. She did all the tough stuff, and all I did was, sleep and feed my baby. Go to get down
and recover.
Yeah, and recover. And I did. I recovered so easily. I recovered really, really quickly, and got into the swing of having 2 under 2 very, very, very quickly. And I think that a lot of that was down to the support that my mum and my stepdad gave me. They, no questions asked, was like, well, you can live here for as long as you want. And I was probably a bit premature in leaving them, to be honest. I was like, I'm gonna prove to the world that I can do this. And I did.
It does feel a bit like that, doesn't it? I feel like even now in the 21st century, there's a certain amount of stigma that comes with single parenting, solo parenting, and I definitely felt that I need to prove that I'm coping, I've got this, and I'm independent, to kind of shun any judgments.
Yeah.
And
100%.
And I had like, my mum was a single mum. I mean, she was married to my dad for 13 years, but she was a single mum before, and she was a single mum, afterwards. And, I have like the utmost respect for her, because I don't know how she bossed it the way she did. And I kind of think I've got a lot going on. And then I'm like, hang on, she worked nights as a nurse, volunteered for Oxfam, did TA stuff in schools. And I'm like,
that's where you get it from.
Really? I'm the mum who does the bought cakes for the events.
Baking does not make you a good mother.
Exactly. That
makes you a good baker.
I actually I did it for Shay's birthday, digressing slightly, and the teacher went, "Oh, no one's ever bought in shop once before." And I went, "I'm starting a new trend," and just walked out.
Welcome to this year.
Like, this is new year.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you've kind of just soared from then.
Yeah, I think becoming a mum, especially becoming a mum with a child that needed me to grow up for a start. When I was 21, I was horrible. I was a horrible person when I was younger. I was really selfish and really lazy, so lazy. I've actually done 2/3 of a degree already, but I didn't bother finishing it because I was so lazy. And having her and being really forced to grow up, become an advocate, become her mum, and I realized that she really needed me to be an adult, so I had to be one. And then my husband leaving, I had to do it on my own. Well, I did it on my own anyway. He was useless, but I had to stop feeling sorry for myself. I think my mum said to me, like, you can either be a victim of this or you can grow from it. And I was like,
but
I can.
But doesn't being a victim keep you unhappy?
Yeah. And I did spend a long time really angry. I was really angry. I was really, really angry that he could go and, live this bachelor life and be off camping every weekend with his 5 girlfriends, whereas I was, juggling 2 babies in nappies and wondering what my life had become at 24. But I kind of harnessed that anger and turned it into something a little bit different. So
and amazing, because I think that's exactly what I did. I realized that it was really easy to stay in a victim state, and just because something really truly shit happens to you, it doesn't mean that you have to stay in that really truly shit place. You can move past it. And I also started to notice that if I was angry or upset, that made no difference to him. Not a bit. He was still, living his life, doing exactly what he wanted when he wanted, with very little responsibility, and all it was doing is keeping me in this really negative space. And then it's very empowering when you take control of that and you move past it, and it does make you feel a little bit like, well, I've gone through that and I've done it, and it's like that almost invincible feeling.
Absolutely.
If I've done that, then the rest of this is going to be fine. Moving forward.
I mean, I told you this earlier, but I'll tell the podcast, video cast, whatever it's called. When I was younger, when I was still married, I was really, really het up on proving that I had a perfect life. Everything was wonderful. I was successful. I was, I got married at 23. I was a younger wife, and I wanted to prove to everyone, I was living this fairy tale, and I was terrified of being found out as a fraud or failing at anything. I couldn't bear it. So then when my husband left and kind of forced me into this situation where I had to admit that the perfect life that I had presented to the world was a load of shit, kind of made me feel like, well, if I can get through that, if I can, be left by my husband with a disabled baby and pregnant, what else could I do? I felt really invincible. I suddenly thought, you know what, I'm really cool. I can do whatever I want, and I don't care if I fail, because what is the worst that can happen? If I think I'm going to go for something and it doesn't work out, I've been through worse, so let's go for it. And that's what I did.
And I think as well, I have definitely got to a place now, because I had a lot of kind of like emotional abuse from outer circle family things when I was pregnant and had Shay. And the irony of it all now is that now I've created a career and a life that I am completely in love with and grateful for. And if they didn't do certain things or put me in certain positions or say certain things, I would not have felt so passionate about supporting other mothers. And and normalizing certain subjects, and and knowing I try to give off quite like a realness in my classes, that there's no perfect parent, but you're the best parent you can be for your baby, and we all make mistakes all the time, and that's fine. But I definitely I went from kind of hating them and resenting them to kind of like, oh, thank you so much, because your shitness has got me to where I am, which is brilliant.
Absolutely. I think some of the horrible things that have happened in my life have made me who I am, and I've just feel really grateful, to be honest. I think if I hadn't have gone through some of those things, would I be here right now? Would I have been brave enough to make some of the decisions that I've made? Nope, I wouldn't. So yeah, I'm glad. Thank you, husband. I'm very grateful
Public.
that you buggered off. Oh, he knows. I write about me on my blog so often. He knows.
Yeah, your very, very popular blog. So you've got like over 9,000 followers on that blog, and I really enjoy following it. And it always brings me like to a real centre of like if I've had a bit of a kind of crappy day, I like the way that you're so unfiltered and you're very much like, yeah, my child is trying to climb over a fence with no pants on, and I'm like, phew.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Arlo.
Oh, Arlo. But yeah, it's definitely taken off. And do you think that is because of the fact of you're just sharing how it really is, instead of these kind of Instagrammed, here's a blueberry pie on some nice white bed sheets with some lights on it?
Yeah, I realised very quickly that if I wrote exactly what I was feeling, then that's what works. That's what really hits people, because they think, oh my God, someone else thinks that parenting is sometimes really shit. I'm not the only one that's not a Pinterest mum, or, gives their child a tablet for the day so that you can go and lie down in bed. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And yeah, I've been offered a lot of times to write about things for other people and do sponsored posts, and I did do one once about Froobs, and it was like selling my soul. I like Froobs, don't get me wrong. They just didn't sit right with me, so I don't do that anymore. I did it once, and I won't do that again. I used my blog originally as like my own therapy. There was so much going on inside my head all of the time. That getting out and writing it down was really, really helpful. Like, I'd have friends, I'd write a blog post, it'd be quite an emotional one, and a friend would text me like, "Are you all right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, why?" "I've just read your blog post." Like, "Oh yeah, but I've written it now, so I've obviously like processed it, and now I'm fine."
Yeah.
"Why don't you talk to me about these things?" I'm like, "Because you could just read about them on my blog." I
You
don't like
read them online. 21st century loves.
They're all used to it now. They're like, "I read that thing on your blog. You're all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, fine now, thank you." And it was such a therapy, but it has moved on from that, and it's now more showing other people, you're not on your own. You can get through whatever shit is thrown at you in life, and you might feel like you're the only person in the world that's got a disabled child, or is a single parent, or both. But you're not,
And
and you never will.
no, and on top of that, you can be a solo or single parent with a disabled child, and still go to university, and you're nearly qualified as a midwife.
You can do whatever you want.
I mean, how did you even begin to juggle uni and solo parenting?
It started just before I became a single parent. I started my breastfeeding helper training the day before my husband left me.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I always know when it was. And I became a breastfeeding helper. I did that for about a year. This was with the Breastfeeding Network. Then I did 6 months training to become a breastfeeding supporter. I was running twice weekly drop-in groups for the 0 to 28 day babies at the local maternity unit. And that kind of gave me the confidence to think, I can make a real difference to people. I can, even just sitting there and listening, I can make a difference to these women. And being around the midwives all the time, and being around women and the babies really sparked something in me. And I thought, I wanted to be a midwife before. I did, but I'd never thought that I could do it. But I'd go along to these groups, and I thought, I could at least go to college. So I went to college, I did my access course, and then I got into my first choice of university and thought, oh, I should probably go then. So I started uni, and here I am as a third year about to qualify. um, and it has been hard. It's been really hard. There's been a lot of times where I've thought, what on earth am I doing? Thinking that I can do this. Like, the juggle is insane, but single mums can do everything.
I mean, can I ask a question though? Do you actually go to sleep?
Yeah, I sleep loads. It's like my number one hobby.
Brilliant.
I love sleeping.
If I kind of look at your blog post and you're doing your midwife, you're parenting solo, and then you're doing your birth tribe, your hypnobirthing, your relaxation course,
Put it all in.
just mad, but amazing.
It's how I find doing nothing. I hate it. I think being a single mum, you have to run the house, parent your child, turn them into a nice person, make sure they've brushed their teeth, they're eating their 5 a day, you know, that they have feminist views, everything possible. You have to do everything. Like, there is no delegation. Now that they're both in school, I've got to remember everything about school. I never do. I'm really bad at that. Oh my God, I'm so bad at that. But I try. I do some of it.
Should I tell you
I've got to do like
the top tip that I give to all parents who struggle with stuff with that school is what you need to do is you need to make friends with the mums that are on it, because then what they do is they text you every day to say, don't forget the cookies, and then you can go to the corner shop, or
yeah.
don't forget it's non-school uniform day. Without them, I don't know how I would do it. They do it
if their school doesn't text me, it's not happening.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but you have to do it all, and you have to juggle, and it's just so normal to do everything. Because if you sat down and wrote down like everything that you do as a single parent every single day, it is loads. So juggling, you know, studying, going to placement, isn't that much more than running your house, because you're used to it. You are used to juggling, you're used to adapting. Single parents are superheroes and have superpowers that I don't think anyone else really understands, because just get on with it, because we do
And
have to.
I completely agree. And I actually wrote a blog post a few years ago. I'll have to find it and repost it, which was 5 things not to say to a single parent.
Oh, I've got one of them.
Yeah. And the one that used to, there's a couple that really got me, but the one that used to get me quite a lot, not so now because I have a deeper understanding of they just don't realise, but it was the one where people go, I'm practically a single parent. Now, in my eyes, if you're practically a single parent, you might as well just be a single parent, because how you can be in a relationship with somebody who provides absolutely nothing into a family unit, whether it be emotional, financially, or physical, they shouldn't be there, because you're torturing yourself. But it was that kind of like, oh well, you know, my partner works long hours, and I'd be like, yeah, but do you get a bath where you don't have to take the baby monitor in and leave all the doors open? Do you get that? Or, you know, do you have to figure out all of your bills yourself without any financial contribution? Because or do you get to have a chat on the phone in the evening to reassure you and just be a person, you know, for the emotional support? So yeah, that's the one that was like my number one that used to aggravate me. Now it doesn't. I just think it's one of those things that roll off the tongue without a lot of thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, have you got one?
Probably that. Yeah, that really just think, did you really? It's not even like the practicalities of it. It's, you know, there's no one to bounce those parenting decisions off of, that everything is on you, all of it. Like, I mean, my parents are great. They help me as much as they can, but it is down to me. They are my children. They're my responsibility. I have to decide everything and make, and, you know, grow these children into nice people.
And it's 100% your responsibility, which is quite a heavy thing to bear, I think.
They're not. Sometimes I look at Harlow when he's doing something really knobby and think, I can only blame myself for that one.
Oh, it's when they start picking up your certain traits. So I'm quite sarcastic, and now Shay becomes quite sarcastic, even though I don't think he really gets how he's using it quite yet, but he's using it, and it's painful. And the only other one that used to really get to me that I wrote about is when somebody says, oh, you know, something about his dad, and I used to say I'm a single parent, and their response would be, I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
And I'd be like, oh no, don't be. Don't be sorry.
Life is great.
It's brilliant. So even though like I'm allowed to moan about it, I'm allowed to do all of those things, I wouldn't swap the situation I'm in for the alternative.
Absolutely not. I cannot think of anything worse than living with someone that didn't, you know, give me the emotional, physical, everything support that I need. And yeah, being on your own is really liberating. Like, as much as I say, oh God, I've got to turn these kids into nice people, I get to make every decision about my children, and I don't have to argue with anyone about what I want for them. And there's no conflict in that. I make those choices, and I'm happy with the choices that I make. And yes, it's really lovely being a single parent, because, you know, my kids are older now. My evenings are my own. I can have my house however I want it. I do not have to compromise on anything, and it's a perk.
And I think that transition is quite hard to start with. I don't know if you found it hard, but I would almost ask friends or family for guidance, whether sometimes it'd be as simple as buying something for myself, which was always a discussion. And you know, I would have friends and family say, you don't have to justify it, me or anyone, like, this is your money, you do whatever you want with it. And that in itself was quite took a while for me to even get that, and not have to justify everything I was doing or communicate to people. And it is, when you get to that point, you're right, it's so liberating that you're in control of your life. And that's amazing. So the one thing I wanted to ask you is, if you could say to somebody who was in the same position or a similar position that you were in or are in, but if you could say something at the start of their journey, what would you say to that person?
Sort your finances. That's a good one. Sort your finances. Feel however you need to feel. Whatever emotions are going through your head, feel them. Don't worry about it. If you're really, really angry, embrace it. It's fine. Trying to, you know, dumb down those emotions is damaging. So just go with it. Find a tribe. Find the people that love you, and always surround yourself with them. I could not have done what I've done without my friends, without my family, because you need, like, it takes a village to raise a child. And doing it on your own, you don't have to always prove, you know, I'm a strong, independent woman. It is fine to drop your children off on your mum's doorstep and say, I'll be back in an hour. No, thank you. Because, you know, you don't have to do it all. And also, you know, be brave. If you want something, go for it. Do your research, but actually, just if you think, do you know what, I really want to do that, then do it, because life is too short to not do it, to waste your life not doing what you want to do, because anything is achievable if you want to do it.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that's it, that self-belief. Just, and getting your tribe around you, and getting the right tribe. Like, it's all right to kind of knock out some toxic people in your life.
Yeah,
not physically knock them out, remove them, I should say.
Get out.
But yeah, it's absolutely fine to do that, because, and all your feelings are valid. I completely agree with that. Absolutely. All of them. And if you were to sum up motherhood in one word, what would it be?
It'd be a very rude word.
You can do a rude word.
It begins with "the." No, I would describe it as good, which is not very enlightened, is it? But, you know, it's fun, and sometimes it's shit, and sometimes unexpected. There you go. I'll say unexpected.
Which goes very well with your blog post, which I will.
Yeah.
I'll link. But yeah, unexpected. That was my word.
Yeah, unexpected, completely random. Every day is different. The unexpected joy and the unexpected things you've thought, oh, I'm going to be really good at, I'm going to be such a crafty mum and I'm going to bake. Oh, I'm not. I really thought I was going to be a crafty mum and like make stuff out of loo rolls. I am not a crafty mum, and there is no chance that is happening in my house.
And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and that's fine. Do whatever you need to do to survive motherhood, because it's full on.
It is. It definitely is. Thank you so much for being the first lovely on the Mother Talks, because I think so many people are going to be able to relate to the things that you said. And for me, if it was me 5.5 years ago that became a single parent and just listened to you talk, I would feel so much better. So thank you so much, love.
Pleasure.